some of them are asking, and this is quoting the report, upwards of 11% above market rates, so market rent. Today's video, the long-term rental market and Airbnbs. Let's get to it. Hello everyone, this is Sam from SaberiSixRealEstate and Remax Realtron Realty Inc. As always, back with another video here for you guys today. You can find my contact information in the description box with regards to my Gmail, my Instagram, and my office. Lastly, feel free to subscribe, comment, rate, and review. Your support in that regard is much appreciated as always. However, as I always say, you're not obliged to do so whatsoever. But if you have any questions, feel free to email me or find me on Instagram, and you have my office info in the description as well. For those who have gotten in touch with me, I really appreciate your correspondences. If I haven't gotten back to you yet, I'm going through a backlog of emails and I will slowly make my way to your email as well. In today's video, we're going to discuss Airbnb units and the rental market at large in the city of Toronto. And what the topic of today's video is the conversion of these short-term rentals, so formerly Airbnb units, into long-term rental units. A recent study that came out determined that around 3,500 units of what was formerly short-term rentals, so once again Airbnbs, have not converted into long-term rental options. So in another way of looking at this, we can define this as a mass shift, a flooding, an influx of long-term rental listings that has occurred ever since the Airbnb regulations. And that's very key for you to understand why this is occurring right here. I made several videos on the Airbnb regulations, one explaining what they are and another one explaining where Airbnbs are most popular in downtown buildings, how it has impacted those buildings and rental prices. But shortly put, the Airbnb regulations formally introduced in 2020, which officially came into effect 2021, made it very difficult to be a profitable proprietor of short-term rental options because number one, a registration is required with the city and a fee. And number two, non-principal residences were no longer applicable for Airbnb units. Now, if you're familiar with the Airbnb market, as it was the case 2020 and previous, these regulations very much so impacts and has impacted the Airbnb operators because first and foremost, most Airbnb operators would operate Airbnbs through non-principal residences, so investment condominiums mostly, especially in downtown Toronto. And a lot of investment condominiums, even if they're under the name of the purchaser, still is not accounted for as a principal residence, and the CRA would look at it as an investment property, as a result subject to capital gains, but furthermore no longer allowed to be operated as an Airbnb under these new guidelines. And furthermore, people who would rent condominiums they did not own, so a lot of Airbnb operators were not owners of the actual unit. They would sign a long-term lease with a condo owner and basically they would be the tenant of that condominium, but they would operate it as an Airbnb. Now, whether sometimes they did this legally or illegally, in other words, if they did this with the consent of the landlord or no consent of the landlord, that's, on an individual case-by-case basis. I've heard of both scenarios pretty frequently. Point being, these regulations very much so push down inventory and now have caused this mass shift into the long-term rental market. And the latest report has indicated, as I previously stated, around 3,600 listings and 3,600 units that were formerly Airbnb units, so not units that were rented in the past or owned in the past. No, 3,600 rental units that used to be Airbnb units, popular Airbnb destinations, have now entered into the long-term rental market. Now, of this 3,600, because this 3,600 figure only refers to the number of listings. So once again, former Airbnb listings, which now can no longer be operated as Airbnbs, thus as a result have transitions into the long-term rental market, but they're merely listings at this stage. So once again, this 3,600 number only refers to listings. Of this 3,600, about 40% of them have fully transitioned, which means have actually been leased out as long-term rental listings. Now, this 40% is a concerning figure, but obviously we know why. Let's first discuss why it's concerning, because if you have a set number of inventory and you're only moving 40% of this inventory, that's not a good rate. However, as we know, there has been a lot of downward pressure on the rental market for various reasons that we all are familiar with. This is the worldwide event that has occurred and has once again limited demand from international people, and also domestic demand as well, because that's diminished because you no longer need to, for instance, rent a condominium downtown to go to work. You can work from home, whether it's further up north with your family or just by yourself, somewhere cheaper up north. Point being, this 40% rate of 3,600 rental units that were formerly short-term rental units as Airbnbs is completely understandable, although very concerning. Now, this research also indicates that the average asking prices of these units that were formerly Airbnb units, now long-term rental options, some of them are asking, and this is quoting the report, upwards of 11% above market rates, so market rent. Now here it's not quite clear because the wording is a little vague, upwards of 11.6%. So are we to think of these 3,600 units, for instance, the most expensive ones are asking 11% above market rent, or is the 11% on average they're asking 11% above market rent? And what market rent are we looking at? Because once again, they're not clear with regards to that at all. They refer to the downtown core, but once again, downtown core can be defined in a lot of ways. C1, C1 and C8, just certain communities within C1, so not the entirety of C1. These parameters or methodology is not very much so clear as of now. And I'm quite skeptical of this 11% figure, because right now, if you are charging 11% above market rent, at least at the day of recording of this video, which is May 15th, you're not gonna have a good time filling out your rental unit whatsoever. You can charge 100% above market rent. If you're not gonna get people into the door, you're not gonna get people in the door. Most prudent tenants are not gonna enter into a contract where they have the leverage. And right now we are in a tenant market. Now, the rental market, as I have explained in previous videos, is slowly improving. We're definitely, for sellers rather, it's definitely a better position to be in right now, once again, as of May 5th, or rather May 15th, 2021, than it was in April, right? If things in April, things in March were much worse, and it's heading towards a more seller-friendly rental market, definitely. And I foresee it being the case by July and August, for sure. Point being though, as of right now, I'm very dubious of this 11% rate that they're asking above market rent, because I don't necessarily see that working out for 9 out of 10 landlords whatsoever. Freehold rentals is a different story, but definitely with regards to condominium rentals, for sure. Anyways, that's a quick rundown of things as is with regards to Airbnbs and the Toronto rental market, specifically with regards to the Toronto downtown rental market and condominium market. Thank you for watching. Let me know if you have any further questions. Feel free to get in touch with me with regards to my contact information in the description box on Instagram, via Gmail, and my office info is in there as well. Lastly, subscribe, comment, rate, and review if you happen to enjoy this video, and stay safe. And once again, thank you very much for watching.